Hi again YouTube, my name is Christy and this is my channel, The Nosy Reader. So if you saw my first video that I filmed yesterday, I talked about how this is my new channel and how I'm wanting to do everything book related. So in this video, I am going to be talking about my May haul and review. I haven't read all of the books that I hauled because I hauled quite a few, but I did read a few of them. So I'm going to show you guys what I bought and review what I read. Let's get into it. So I'm going to begin with the books that I ordered online. All of these books that I purchased were purchased on Amazon because I have found that that is the cheapest place to get either gently used books or brand new books. So let's get started. I bought 3 books online this month, and the first one that I bought was a big hit last summer, and that is Second Chance Summer by Matson. And I have not had a chance to read this yet. I think that usually with contemporary books I have to really be in the mood to read them, so I have not given it a start yet, but I know that this was a huge book on BookTube last year and I'm really excited. I ordered Wild and Free, and this is by Jess Connolly and Haley Morgan. And it says on the front, a hope-filled anthem for the woman who feels she is both too much and never enough. November 9 by Colleen Hoover, and I have read this one. I will say I really liked the storyline and I loved the general idea. For those of you who don't know, I don't think this is too much of a spoiler because of the title, but this book has entries written every November 9th for, I believe, 6 or 7 years, and it's a love story between Fallon and Ben. Ben is an aspiring writer and Fallon is an aspiring actress. It's a really awesome book. I enjoyed it. The only thing that I didn't like about it was I have a hard time reading books when they describe in detail kind of what's going on in terms of, you know, any kind of mature content, and I know that this is kind of aimed at new adults, not necessarily young adult, but a little bit older. So that's a good thing. I would say if you are a younger reader, potentially don't read this, just because I think it can give readers, young readers, a wrong idea about exactly how relationships work. But definitely, I think this is a great story, and it was a fun read. Next, I have books that I purchased from Target, and I read the majority of these. So I'm going to start with Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, and I had seen this in stores for years because I think the cover text is beautiful, and so it always stuck out to me, but I never ended up reading the book. And once I saw the preview, when I was seeing, I think it was when I saw the Jungle book a few weeks ago, when I saw the preview, I knew that I had to pick this book up because I had to see what it was all about. So, but it was a really good book. I definitely cried at the end, and I know that pretty much everybody has said that. I would recommend this book probably for new adults as well. I do think that it's a little bit more mature for the younger reader, but definitely loved this one. I just read Queen, and I have not had a chance to read this yet. I don't have the second book in my possession, and I want to read this once I have the second book. That way I can marathon them. Last from Target, I'm very excited about these. This is the Lunar Chronicles series. I have not read the novella or the book called Fairest, which was kind of like an in-between story about the antagonist in the story, but I've read these four and I loved them. I read all of these within a matter of a few hours each. I picked up one, read it in a few hours, went to the store, picked up the second one. For some reason, I didn't pick them all up at the same time. I don't know why I didn't. I guess I was just trying to make sure I would like the series enough. I don't know. But picked up these, fell in love with them, fell in love with the world that was created. So Cinder is based off of Cinderella, obviously. Scarlet is based off of Little Red Riding Hood. Cress is based off of Rapunzel, and Winter is based off of Snow White. I will have to say that this was my favorite out of all of them just because this is the book where everything happens. The first 3 books have so much world building in them, and you find out who all of these characters are but once you get into this one, that's when the real action happens. This book actually looks to be like the same length as the other ones, but it's actually not, because it has got really, really tiny thin pages, and this book actually has, I think, 823 pages. Yeah. So this is a very large book, but for me it did go rather quickly, just because once you've gotten yourself wrapped into the first ones, you tend to really get into this and read it pretty quickly. I went to a local used bookstore in Nashville called McKay Used Books, and at McKay's you can take in, you know, crates of your own books, and then they offer you either store credit or cash based on what you bring them. Obviously, they always give more store credit than they give cash, so I took the store credit because I knew that I was going to want to get some books there. And McKay, for those of you who don't know, if you haven't ever been to Nashville, I would recommend checking it out because it's very overwhelming. It's a huge warehouse full of books. It is huge. So the first two that I found were from the Selection series, and that is the Selection and the Elite. There are 5 books in the series. Originally, it was a 3-book series, but the author Kiera decided to add in 2 more books additionally to it. So I have read the first book so far, but I do not want to get into the second book until I have at least the 3rd book. The first book was so good. If you like castles and princesses and fairy tales, but like modern day, I feel like you would really like this. Passenger by Alexandra Bracken. I was very confused as to why this was already in a used bookstore only 5 months after its release, especially because it's so beautiful, and I don't know why you wouldn't want to have the binding of this on your bookshelf, because it is beautiful. So the book is a kind of a mix of contemporary, romance, and historical fiction. Historical fiction is not something that I see enough of in books lately. I think it's a lot about sci-fi and fantasy and kind of dystopian, and so seeing historical fiction was a breath of fresh air for sure, and I really enjoyed this book. I could not put it down. It was very, the words were very eloquently tied together, and it was kind of a book where you really have to focus on what you're reading, because Alexandra Bracken is a brilliant writer, and you know, it's not a quick read. A lot of people on BookTube have been talking about the cliffhanger. Yes, there was a huge cliffhanger at the end of this. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for the next book to come out. It's called Wayfarer, and I want to say it comes out next January. I could be wrong, but I think that's when it comes out. So, but this is definitely a great book to pick up. The Raven Boys by Maggie Stiefvater. And I will say, I was really looking forward to ordering the hardcover copy online, but I think this was like $3 or $4, and so I really couldn't pass it up. And the reason I wanted the hardcover version is because it doesn't have these 4 boys on it. I'm not always a fan of people's faces being on books, just because I think that it kind of takes away some of the imagining that you as the reader should do yourself, but that's okay. Next is The Winner's Curse by Rutkoski. I've heard a lot about this, and it is about a girl who picks up a slave boy, and I guess there's a love story involved. I'm not sure, but I'm really excited to pick this one up also, and I think the cover is beautiful. Next is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. This book is so stinking popular on BookTube, and I've heard so much about it. I wasn't sure how I felt about, you know, I wasn't sure if it was something that I was interested in reading, but once I saw it at the bookstore, I was like, I can't pass it up. It was $3. So this is the next book that I got. And last from McKay's is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo. This is another book that I feel like is sort of popular on YouTube as well, and I do not know a whole lot about this, but I'm kind of okay with going into the book not knowing a lot about it, and I'm just really excited to pick this one up as well. This, I think, was also like $3. So last but not least, I found some books at Goodwill. Let's go ahead and get into it. The first book that I found is This Is Where I Leave You by Jonathon Tropper. I do not know a lot about this book either, but I know that it is a contemporary novel. I'm really excited to dive into it. I think the cover is beautiful. Love the colors on this, and it'll be a nice thing to add to my bookshelf. Next, I found Let's Get Lost by Alsaid, and I do not know a lot about this one either, but I've heard that for people who liked Paper Towns by John Green, that this is another book kind of like that. I found The Scarlet Thread by Francine Rivers, and Francine Rivers is a very popular Christian writer, and her most popular book arguably is Redeeming Love. I definitely plan on doing a video about that book in the future, so be looking out for that. But I'm really excited about this book. The way that she ties together her stories, there is a bit of historical fiction in them, but a lot of them have symbolism to the gospel story. So I'm really excited to get into this. And Francine Rivers is just such a good author. If you liked Redeeming Love, I would highly recommend picking this one up. I am currently reading it now, not very far in at all, but so far it is seeming very similar to her book, Redeeming Love. At Goodwill, I found Shatter Me by Tahereh, Mafi, and this is another book where I was really wanting to get the hardcover copies because I think the hardcover copies of this series are absolutely stunning. But again, how could I turn this down? I think this was $1.99. So again, you can't really turn down a cheap book like that. So I'm really excited to get into this one as well. This, I believe, has 2 more books. That is my May haul and review. If you guys have any questions or if you want me to do reviews on any of these books, even the ones that I haven't read yet, definitely leave a comment below and let me know because I'm just so excited to dive into these this summer. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe, and if you haven't seen my first video, go check it out. Bye guys!